Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the latest Pokemon game, has so much you can do the moment you start your journey. From battling all the gym leaders to fighting the Titan Pokemon to disbanding a team of troubled teens that were bullied by their peers. But the tried and true goal of not only Scarlet and Violet, but also every Pokemon game in the series, is catching every single Pokemon in the game and completing the Pokedex, a catalog of the creatures and where they are. It's a daunting task, even back in the original game. It has only gotten more and more challenging through the years, as we are now close to about 1,000 Pokemon in the Pokedex in general. A challenge that I, as a casual Pokemon fan, has never really done before. Despite playing the game since the original Pokemon Red and Blue, I never completed the Pokedex, whether it's because I didn't have both the games and couldn't trade from one system to the other, or only because I lost interest, and would only get so far as beating the Elite Four, if I got that far at all. I didn't even beat Let's Go Pikachu and Brilliant Diamond. Sword and Shield, I beat the Elite Four and put it down immediately. And while making an attempt with the Pokedex in Legends Arceus, completing each entry for that game required extra challenges like catching it multiple times, catching alphas, having to catch different sizes of Pokemon that you could barely tell the difference of, and doing that for over 242 Pokemon? Yeah, I'm not doing that. But with the release of Scarlet and Violet, and the fact that I could just complete the Pokemon by catching each one normally again, I wanted to finally see if I could catch them all for the first time. Well, technically all of them, but there's 1,000 of these weird creatures. All the ones in Scarlet and Violet. I wanted to do this, not just for bragging rights and personal validation, but also because there was an item I wanted. Something that I could only get if I completed the Pokedex. Something that I wanted for years that was just out of my grasp. The Shiny Charm. That's right, one Shiny Charm, a key item that increased your odds of finding a shiny Pokemon from 1 out of 4,096 to 1 out of 1,365.7. Still difficult, but a big increase in the odds for sure. Get your Shiny Charm today. Talk to your local Pokemon professor about getting a Shiny Charm and completing the Pokedex. Could lead to death by tall grass. My favorite part of any Pokemon game has been shiny hunting. And while I was successful with finding a few wild ones out in the open, a part of me wonders if I would have been more successful if I were to have gotten the Shiny Charm in the previous games. This time, I'm gonna stop wondering and start catching. I'm gonna finally complete that Pokedex and get me that shiny object. So, how was collecting all 400 Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Well, at first, it was really fun. From the moment I started the game, my favorite part of Pokemon Violet was just exploring the world and catching Pokemon. Sure, all the stories were interesting, the Titan one being my favorite, but I would often take detours if it meant finding new pocket monsters. Collecting these creatures while just aimlessly wandering around the Paldea was a spectacular experience, and it was a nice break while doing the 3 main stories. I found a lot of creatures on my journey, and by the time I spent over 25 hours completing the main stories and Area Zero, I had captured about 190 Pokemon. Despite my best efforts of playing casually, I still had 210 Pokemon to go. 26 of them I could only get through trading, and the rest I had to search all over the game to find, or level up to evolve said Pokemon until they reached their full evolution. This is the part where I would usually give up my Pokedex quest, but not today, Zerg! We were going to catch these Pokemon and get that shiny object. And so begins my journey to catch the Pokemon. It was a long journey, and one that I could have not done without the internet. Not only to look up where things were, as some of these Pokemon were located in the most peculiar places, but literally because I needed Nintendo Switch Online to trade. And catching them was only the beginning. A lot of them needed to evolve, often multiple times. This was an absolute pain, especially when it came to grinding. I initially started with grinding in Area Zero until the Pokemon in my party fully evolved, but it took way too much time, and I wanted to get this done before the next Pokemon came out. So I decided to go on raids with my community and farm some EXP shards. It was a lot more effective and helped out immensely. My community is mentioned a lot here, as they made this more tolerable for me than it should have been, and arguably, I couldn't have done it without them, but we'll get to that. As for catching these individual Pokemon, there's 400 of them. I'm not going to talk about each one in detail. However, I will mention Pokemon or groups of Pokemon that I've found to be memorable, whether good or bad. So let's see, where should I start? Oh, I know! Pokemon in trees. One neat thing about Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet is that some can be found in trees now. They are lurking around the open world area, so it makes sense some of them will be hiding up there, right? These Pokemon include Pineco and Tarantula, to name a few, and weren't difficult to catch at all. So why are you complaining, random? Well, they weren't hard to catch when you can actually see them. A lot of these Pokemon are completely invisible to the player, and you can only see them if you dash into the trunks. Keep dashing and hopefully a Pokemon will materialize and fall to the ground. I didn't know this, and basically wasted a lot of my time looking for Slackoff when he was nowhere to be found. Once I found out, I had to basically dash into every tree I could find, sometimes multiple times, trying my best to pray that Slackoff would just fly down to me. Same thing with Pokemon like Bonesweet and Applin. Oh my god, I had so much trouble finding that darn apple. It's a nice way to spice up the variety of finding Pokemon. I just wish you could make them, visible, or at least telegraph that they're there, maybe have their shadow there, or maybe have you can hear the Pokemon near the tree just a little bit. Something that would make it easier. Step Pokemon. In Scarlet and Violet, you have the Let's Go feature, which sadly has nothing to do with Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee. Instead, you throw out your Pokemon into the open to walk around with you and fight Pokemon without going into the whole menu. What if I told you that count them, three Pokemon can only evolve by walking with them for 1,000 steps? Yes, 1,000 steps. But you have to make sure you don't go too far, otherwise your Pokemon will go right back into the ball and you will have to start all over again. Which means, walk a few seconds, wait for your Pokemon, walk, wait, walk, wait, walk, wait. It never ends. Thankfully, my community gave me the biggest lifesaver of all time by giving me one small piece of advice. Use the lighthouse. Just run around the top of the lighthouse at the beginning of a game for about 5 to 10 minutes in circles and use a rare candy. Saves you a lot of time and aggravation. Pokemon in water. Scarlet and Violet is a bit of a broken game, could you tell? Glitches, stuttering, and overall slowdown is quite common depending on the area you are in. I also noticed that the jankiness would always seem to be worse around water, which can suck since Paldea is one giant island. This made catching Pokemon in lakes and oceans 10 times harder, as my character would have trouble moving, or worse, get caught in an endless sea, get it, of encounters. See, while a lot of areas had problems like this, the worst was in Casseroya Lake, as the game's problems combined with the huge amount of Pokemon in the area just made the whole game look like a badly edited stop motion. It was slowing down so bad that actually catching a Pokemon made me fear that the game was going to glitch and crash. That's how slow and stuttery this game was in that area. I know water levels are supposed to be known for being terrible, but this isn't exactly what I had in mind. See, trades. You all know you can trade Pokemon, and if you don't, how are you a Pokemon fan? Trading Pokemon is very common, as certain versions have certain exclusives, and the only way to complete the game was to trade from one version to the other, which either meant owning a Switch Online account to trade with at best, or coughing up 2 copies of the game and 2 Switches at worst. Thankfully, this wasn't hard for me at all, as so many members of my community did me a huge solid for letting me have access to some of their mons. I am really thankful, as it eased a lot of the tediousness for me getting Scarlet exclusives, as this obstacle really stopped me from completing the decks in other games. I didn't have many friends who played Pokemon back in the day, so it warmed my heart to no end that people in this community were willing to make it easier and help me out. Alright, that was pretty easy. Let's get back to the difficult ones. Paradox Pokemon! Paradox Pokemon. Certain Pokemon in Area 0 that were just difficult to catch or even find. I wasted so many balls just trying to catch these guys, even when lowering their health and hitting them with status changes. Some of them are located in super specific locations, and I don't mean different levels of Area 0. I mean one being located in a completely hidden area off the beaten path that I don't know if anyone found out about on their own without a wiki. And even then, it took quite a few balls to catch them too. These guys weren't the final boss of Pokemon catching, but they certainly did a good job of testing my patience. Other strangely difficult Pokemon. Other than the last 5 Pokemon I caught, 2 Pokemon truly perplexed me with their way to evolve. One Pokemon, Finizen, could only evolve using Union Circle, which frustratingly made it another reason why you needed Switch Online to complete the decks. You had to have Finizen in your party, connect to a friend with Union Circle, and then level up the Pokemon to level 38. And make sure they're leveled up while using Union Circle, and then, only then, could you get Palafin. Why the extra step? Why not just have them level up to level 38? Why did you need to have Union Circle other than just to justify the feature? But that's nothing compared to King Gambit. Good God. Pawniard to Bisharp was hard enough, leveling him up all the way to 52. But after that, you have to battle three other Bisharp. And not just regular ones, Bisharp that are specifically holding the leader's crest. And then level that Pokemon up to get King Gambit. They don't have to be consecutive battles, thankfully, but you have no idea what items Pokemon hold. So you could spend hours needlessly encountering them and wasting rare candies to see if you could just get that weird samurai. Needless to say, I took the shortcut route and got these Pokemon through trades. I know it's cheap, but those ones were just too much for me. Work smarter, not harder. And if it helps, I wound up getting a King Gambit through a raid anyway, so technically I didn't cheat. Oh, God. After all those Pokemon were caught, I only had 5 left to get. 4 that are legendaries, and 1 that I'll get to later. The legendaries, which names I'm not going to say as I'm going to butcher the pronunciations, all had incredible designs and had a decent amount of build-up to them if you followed their story. Finding them, however, was a bit tricky. All throughout Paldea are stakes that you can find that are multiple different colors. If you released all of them, that would unlock a door that would lead to one of the legends. You are meant to find these in your journey randomly, but let's be honest, I had a guide on standby, and for most of this journey, I imagine you all did too. You can take classes to help you find where the gates are located, but it's not going to help you find each one of the 32 stakes just scattered around the region. Arceus Almighty, even with the guide, I still had trouble with some of the ones in caves or located in weird places. And that doesn't even count catching the darn creatures. One I caught in a Pokeball on my first try. If this somehow works, I swear to God. Oh! Well, that put up quite a fight, didn't it? But the rest took a decent amount of balls. It was a lot, but I got him, which left only one Pokemon left. Golden Go. Remember the Pokemon Gimmighoul, the little silver coin dude in the chest? Turns out they have an evolution, but to evolve them, you need to collect items called Gimmighoul coins, which can be found in random places or collected after defeating Wild Gimmighoul. Oh yeah, and you need 999 coins. Why? Which meant I had to spend who knows how long just trying to find and farm coins. Some of which that I would get 1 or 2 at a time. And I had to get just one under 1,000? How long did that take? Actually, it didn't take very long at all. Thankfully, by the time I got to looking for this guy, I already recovered over 700 Gimmighoul coins just from playing the game and finding them normally. All I had to do was look at a guide and find the remaining chests. I was done in about a half hour. I was surprised at how easy it was compared to catching the other Pokemon. But as soon as I grabbed that 999th coin, Golden Go was mine, the Pokedex was completed, and the shiny charm was finally in my grasp. Shiny starters, you will all be mine! Maybe! With that finally done, the question is, was it worth completing the Pokedex? Not really, but I'm glad I did it. Completing this Pokedex was the longest and one of the most tedious things I've ever done in a game, as spending hours upon hours to level up each Pokemon and catch them all took so much time out of me. The grinding, the crazy evolution requirements, all of it left a sour taste in my mouth, and it made sense why a lot of people, including me, haven't caught them all in the past. While a Super Pokefan will be happy with the shiny charm and the cool certificate that comes out of it, I understand why a lot of casual fans may just want to collect their favorites, or just beat the story. But despite that, I don't know, completing the Pokedex was more about the journey than the destination, in my opinion. It was fun to explore and catch the Pokemon out there, going to a bunch of different areas I missed because it wasn't near the main story, seeing all the secrets that I could find, finding all the different species out there. It was just really nice. Completing the Dex is a rite of passage for every Pokemon fan. It could be quite the tiresome adventure, but at the end, it's still an accomplishment, and I'm still glad I did it. And the coolest thing of them all, it was a nice bonding moment with my members of my community. A lot of my community helped me out with finding Pokemon, finding where Pokemon are, or just trading with me and joining me on raids. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we all got to work together to make this happen. It was really awesome, and I'm extremely grateful for everyone who helped out. You all mean a lot to me. Thank you. It is done. I did it. Despite everything, I finally caught them all. Well, again, all the ones in Scarlet and Violet. There's over 1,000 of these guys, and it's... What was your experience like catching all the Pokemon in the Pokedex? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button, and stay tuned for more videos.